Hello, everybody. Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is an actor, a voice actor, a coach. He is best known for being the voice of Porky Pig and Tweety in the Looney Tunes franchise, or one of the voices because they have multiple voices now. Because when Mel Blanc died, he did like all the voices. And then they had to be split off between different people because like no one, like not everyone could just be one character. It's amazing. Like that man was just amazing. And my guest, you met Mel, didn't you?
I did.
You
I
did,
did.
yeah. You
Yeah.
did, yeah.
I stalked him. I mean, in a friendly sort of way.
Yeah.
Um, when we moved to LA and I was 14, I just thought I was going to call him and just say, "Hey, listen, I'd like to do what you do." And I looked in the phone book, and I told the story a million times. I'm not going to go into it in detail because people can hear it all over
Yeah. Yeah.
the internet. But
Yeah.
I basically just I crashed a recording session
Oh,
and watched him work. And that was the one of two times I met him. The second time was, I believe, several years later. Actually, not too long before he passed away, he was doing a book signing of his autobiography at a bookstore here in Los Angeles called Samuel French. And I
mhm.
went with my buddy Bill Farmer, who is the voice of Goofy, and we stood in line
He's
and
up
got his
there.
autograph.
I
Oh,
met
there you go.
Bill.
All
I
right,
met
all
Bill.
right,
Yeah, he did a
there you
UK
go.
convention last year. He was
There
really
you go.
lovely.
Cool.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And the other, so you might not know my guest just from Looney Tunes. You may also know him from other pieces of media, such as the voice of Link Hogthrob and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew in Little Muppet Monsters. He was also in Muppet Babies as well, which is quite cool. Wembley in Fraggle Rock, the animated series. Tim the Witch Smeller and Elton the Aardvark in Sabrina, the animated series.
And I wasn't
Eager
in that. You're going from IMDb.
No,
IMDb.
I'm going from Wikipedia. So,
That's even worse. IMDb and Wikipedia are such baloney. And I cannot tell you how many interviews I've done where they're going through like this laundry list of stuff. And I'm like, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Not your fault. But you must understand those are not true resources. Those are
the
fan-based resources.
encyclopedia that
Keep this in. Keep this in. People should know this stuff. It happens all the
I'm
time.
pretty
Half
sure
of my
Sabrina was a Canadian production, or was that
It
another series?
was. It was. But
Yeah.
I've gotten work from that phony baloney credit because people think I was in that. So here's the deal. Half of my career is not on IMDb. Much of what's on IMDb is I never even auditioned for.
Yes.
So take it with a grain of salt, people. But I'm glad we covered that and keep this in
Yeah,
because people
I will
they
do.
they think if it's in print on social media or the internet, it must be true. That's not true.
Yeah, yes. I mean, you were definitely Eager Young Space Cadet in Duck Dodgers, right?
But yeah, that's right. Yes, I was.
You were Bucky the Squirrel in The Emperor's New School. You were Lamassu in, I hope I pronounced that right, in Star Wars The Clone Wars and The Bad Batch.
Yes, I've got to get very close for Lamasu because it's a very
Ooh.
quiet voice. But yes, I still am doing Lamasu. You think he's dead? Nobody dies.
That reminds me sort of like a Steve Bloom, Corey Burton, sort of down there in the throat sort of
Oh,
voice.
if I had just an inch of Steve Bloom's range and talent and skill, I'd be thrilled. He and Corey both just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant actors.
And you were also Luke Skywalker in multiple Star Wars video games.
This is true. He
And
sounds like me. He
yeah,
just there's the pre-Jedi Luke, which is the kind of whiny Luke. He's really
yeah,
young and he's just kind of whiny, and then he finds out this thing called the Force, and he gets a little centered and he gets a little grounded. But he just sounds like me.
yeah, yeah. Who else is there? Eric Stoffer in Scooby Doo and the Cyber Chase.
Okay, he sounded like me too. Yeah.
Well, at least I'm getting these correct. At least I'm getting these correct. Wind up in the Skylanders franchise.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I think that's true. But you have to understand when as a voice actor, if you do a
Yeah.
day on a game or even a week on a game,
Hmm.
that was just a day or a week in your life. And I'm not a
Yeah.
game player. I don't watch a good majority of my work.
Yeah.
So um, The reason I'm not doing some of these voices when you're mentioning the credits is I don't remember them.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, they may even be false. I mean, as I said, I'm taking them from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia that
Well,
anybody
so
can edit.
actually, the recent ones you're right. I did do those.
Okay. Okay. So we're okay. Okay. I'm getting it right. I'm getting it right. I'm not
Yeah,
getting you wrong. Okay. Okay. We're good. Of course, you were Porky and Tweety in Space Jam.
which I can't talk about because we're on strike.
Yep, you're on strike. Yes, and also I've never seen the film, so I can't really talk about it with you. So,
All right.
my guest has also been in films such as Rover Dangerfield, Cats Don't Dance, Hercules,
Can't
Toy
talk about
Story.
movies. Can't talk about movies. Can't talk about
Oh
movies.
yes! Oh my. Well, I could say you were in them because it's technically coming from me. I
No,
can't.
no, I
Oh
can't even be a
dear.
part of this. No, because I can't be a part of the conversation with you talking about it.
Oh.
That's what it's all about. We cannot
Oh
talk about struck work.
wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to tread real carefully with my guest because my guest is the legendary Mr. Bob Bergen. He is on strike at the moment, so we have to limit what we can and can't talk about. So if it is anything, please say no. And
I'll tell you what's safe is games are safe. Any animated TV show is safe.
Yeah.
But animated features, live action TV shows that I might have done voices on, just can't talk about right now.
Oh man.
And if people are interested, go to my IMDb page and you'll see all that stuff that may be true or not.
I was so like there were two subjects that I would love to talk about you, but obviously like it won't be able to do it this time. They would have been about Gremlins, obviously that is a live action film we cannot discuss, and also your ADR looping time with. Well, I mean, we can talk about her because she was a voice actor herself, Mickey McGowan.
I can talk about Mickey. I just can't talk about specific movies.
About the ADR looping.
I can even talk about the process. I can even talk about but I can't talk about or promote any specific past work right now.
I'm so glad I'm not a part of the union because I would have been so confused as to what I can and can't talk about. Like, so I've got to be careful as well because I'm planning on joining the union.
I'm not sad I'm part of the union because it pays for pension and health and residuals. So, and that's why we can, if you want, we can talk about the strike. Why we're on strike.
Oh no, I meant like I'm at this moment in time like. With me, because I want to join the union when the strike's obviously over, so I've also got to be careful what I can and can't talk about. And I wasn't saying like
you can talk about anything you want. You're not a member of the union.
Okay. So I could talk about Gremlins, but there isn't really much to talk about.
Not with me, you can't. But
anywhere,
anywhere else you can.
Okay. Ooh, I think we're good. We're good. So I think we should start on a very safe topic. ADR and looping. Obviously, we're not going to say what specific films you've worked on, but you've done all this looping for animated films and stuff. For films, so you've got people like you've got Bill Farmer, Lorraine Newman, Mickey McGowan. There's so many more people. I can't even remember them off the top of my head. I'm trying to think because there was usually so many voice actors in that additional voices bit. So how did you become a part of Mickey's sort of loop group?
It's a very good question. I had an agent at the time who had an actor who was hired to work on a film, and he was sick, and he couldn't work. So my agent recommended me, and it was a very good day. And from that day forward, she would just call me and hire me. I will delve a little bit into what, first of all, ADR stands for automated dialogue replacement. It's adding voice back to product. Cartoons are recorded first, and then they add the animation and the sound effects and the music, etc. For ADR, you're watching the movie, and if you look at the end of any animated feature, you'll see a lump of names that say additional voices. The reason why this exists is because of Mickey and other people like her who did this kind of work. Back in the old days of animated features, there weren't that many voice actors in the films. Starting with in the mid 80s, they started bringing in more actors because there were many more characters.
Yeah.
To give each actor screen credit for every little voice they did, that scroll at the end of the movies would go on forever, and it was becoming a nightmare to keep track of who did what. So SAG made an agreement with the studios to lump us into a credit called additional voices. And we might have done one voice, we might have done 101 voices, but it kept us in the credits, and it also kept us in the residual pool, which is how actors really do make their living. We don't make, a union actor doesn't really make a living on session fees. It's all about the residuals. So long story short, that's what additional voices is. That's how I got involved. And bless her heart, she hired me for almost everything she ever did until she stopped doing it.
Yeah. And yeah, I do remember because I was friends with her online for not a while, because I think it was a few months or maybe a year before she passed away. And, you know, just all this like looping and stuff she's done and all these films, you know, I think she would have been a good guest for my show. And
she would have been a dynamite guest. She would have been so flattered to be a guest on your show. And, you know, she was funny. We used to go out for dinner and cocktails after work. And for a while, she lived in Palm Springs, and I would visit her, and she was just a hoot and a holler. We used to share stories. There was a place called, it still exists, called Voice Casters in Burbank, which is a major voiceover casting office. And we called it the golden era of voiceover, which is when I got into the business back in the 80s and the 90s. And actors would be spewed down the street, either waiting to audition or just hanging around and laughing and telling stories. And Mickey was almost like a ringmaster, you know, with all the greats of the voiceover world telling very off-color, politically incorrect jokes that today you can't tell, but back then they were delicious.
And you said that place is still open, right?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I haven't been there in a million years since COVID. Everything's from home, so I'll still get auditions from them. But I think the actual facility is still open. They teach. They've got classes there. I think they probably do demos as well. But it's a great place with a lot of history.
I was gonna say, because that is where I'm going in March. I will be in sort of like the Los Angeles Burbank area. I'm going there for a convention, and obviously I'm exploring and meeting all these.
So my advice to anybody coming to Los Angeles who's interested in voiceover, there's a thing online called VORG, the Voiceover Resource Guide. Just Google it. You will see every coach, every demo producer, every studio, every casting director, and just get the website, and then drive around Los Angeles and learn voiceover geographically. You know, Voice Casters in Burbank is down the street from Mark Rowell Recording, down the street from Nickelodeon, down the street from Disney. They're all sort of Cartoon Network closed, but it used to be down the street from Cartoon Network.
Oh, yeah.
But you can find every agent's office. You can find every casting office. Just drive it. Get out of your car. Walk around. Stand outside. You might have a casting director say, "Can I help you?" "Oh, no, I'm Amber. I'm visiting from the UK. I'm a voice actor, and I'm in town just visiting." And have somebody nice say, "Would you like to come in and listen to some casting?" "Yes, I would." When I was a kid, when I got my driver's license, I would drive to Bell Sound and Fred Jones Recording and all these old studios in Hollywood, and I would make friends with the receptionist, and they would let me just sit in the lobby, and I would just strike up conversations with voice actors, with commercial producers, with ad agency executives. And that's how I networked. There was no internet back then. You couldn't just go to LinkedIn and try to connect with somebody. So I just took it upon myself to sit and chat.
Have you ever visited Salami Studios or recorded there?
Tons.
I really want to go there. It's like full of history and stuff, but they don't like. It's hard to explain. I did ask about visiting and stuff, but I think you can only go there by invite, or if you have a session there or something.
Yeah. So here's the thing with a major studio like that. You know, all day long they've got some major celebrities going in and out. They've got some, you know, very, you know, what I do. We're not celebrities, but there's some well-known faces that will be working there. They want them to be creatively private, I guess. They don't want to have now. I've seen where a friend of a engineer might have a friend watching whatever,
Yeah.
but I think they do that to respect talent's privacy and to give them the space to be creative and not worry about who's this stranger. There's a lot of people in a room when you're recording. There's of course the director, the engineer, but you might have a few producers, writers, network people, etc. So anybody who's not a part of it might make the performer feel uncomfortable. So I kind of understand that philosophy, but there are other studios around town. Look at get the Borg, and just explore.
Yeah, definitely. Where would you say there is more resources available for voiceover, in like downtown Los Angeles, or like more like Burbank, Hollywood sort of way?
That's like saying, hey, in San Francisco, where would one go to eat? It depends on what you want to eat. It depends on what you want to spend. There are little, I mean, my buddy Bill Holmes has right next door to Salami, has a studio called Compost Productions. Ooh. Which is a great facility, and it's been there for many, many years. It does, they do everything. They do games, they do commercials, they do podcasts, you name it. And then you've got beautiful facilities like LA Studios on Cahuenga near Universal, which has also been around forever. And they've got giant stages where they can do group ADR, and they've got tiny little booths for commercials and everything. So there isn't a central location. I've done very little, if anything. I think I was going to say go to downtown Los Angeles. I think I did a cartoon called Mr. Pickles downtown LA.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe that's where the production company was. When I first started doing Robot Chicken for Seth Green, they were in Hollywood proper. And now they're in Burbank. But there isn't really a central place. There is, it just depends on where you're going to be working. Disney's in Burbank. But most of us work from home now since COVID, and I love it.
I was going to say, because like this whole, I've been planning. Oh, where'd you go? I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm here. Alexa, turn on Bob's Office fan. I had to talk to my lady.
Right, okay. I was gonna say your lady. I was gonna say what was I gonna say? Oh yes, because my trip to America has been like 4 years in the making since COVID, of course. Like everyone started working from home, and now like like I want to go now, and everyone's gonna be at home, and I'm like, where is everyone? And I just get to America, and no one's there. No one's at the studios or anything. I'm just like,
But for us, a lot of actors don't like recording from home. I love it. I love not having to drive the freeways. I love not having, half my day was spent driving from one place to the other, even for an audition. Now I just go from this chair here to that booth over there, and I love it. I do not miss working in studio at all. But I did that for the first 40 years of my career, so I got it out.
Yeah, and like working in your booth with a massive Mel Blanc signature on the side. I love that. So was that like a print or something?
Yeah. So when I crashed that recording session, he gave me his autograph.
Yeah.
And I needed props and stuff when I first did my one-man show. So I just had that blown up, and it was up on stage because I tell stories. The same story I told you, but I tell stories about my career in life, and I just refer to the props during the show. And now it's just up on my booth.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Here, I can show it. I can show
yeah, of course. Oh my gosh.
My office is a bit messy, but it's lived in. So that's
I see a cell on the wall there between the mask and the autograph.
No, that's not a cell. That is actually a drawing. When I did a show called New Looney Tunes, it was my birthday, and Matt Craig, who was our producer, gave me a lovely picture of that he had an animator do of me and Porky, and it was a birthday gift. So I got that framed over there. So thank you, Matt.
That's really that's really sweet, and it's like a little birthday gift for you. So, were you at the recording session like on the day of your birthday, or like
Yeah,
before? Were
no,
you? You got to record on your birthday. That is like the
it was the
best birthday
day.
present.
Well, but and the thing is, so the first time I ever did Porky Pig was a show called Tiny Toon Adventures,
Yeah.
and I booked that very first job. Also, I booked that job on my birthday.
Oh
So
wow.
so I always think of my birthday as my Porky anniversary. And I told that story, I think, to Matt and one of his producers, and that's I think why they did that. Other than also they were really nice people.
You should consider it like a day of good luck.
Totally right.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
of course you grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. So, right,
Well,
right.
I did till I was 8.
Until you okay, right? So I got it from Wikipedia, so I didn't know.
That part's true, but from birth to 8 was St. Louis, from 8 to 14 was Cincinnati, and from 14 on was here.
Ah, right, okay. But it was mainly like in really the first few years of your life, as like a young child, 5, 6,
Right,
7 years old.
right.
Growing up, what were your favorite cartoons to watch? Other, I believe you probably would have grown up with Looney Tunes, I believe.
Everybody
Yes,
did.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Of course, even
everybody.
I did.
Even my parents did because they were shown in theaters when they were kids.
Yeah,
Um, I love the Looney Tunes, obviously. I was a big fan of the black and white Fleischer Popeye cartoons. I was a big fan of Speed Racer. Um, I did love Tom and Jerry or the Roadrunner. I found both of those dull. Um, don't know why, but I did. Maybe because they didn't talk. Then I'm like, I like my tunes to talk. Um, I loved man Saturday morning cartoons. I was 5 when Scooby Doo, Where Are You debuted, and I was hooked. Funky Phantom, which was Scooby Doo with a different cast,
yeah,
and Josie and the Pussycats, which was kind of Scooby Doo with a different cast.
yeah,
But I liked them. I liked all those. I was their core audience. I also loved HR Puffin stuff and Lidsville and the Bugaloos, which were live action sitcoms for kids in the
yeah.
60s. And so, but I was, I was a typical kid who's just sat and ate Captain Crunch and watched Saturday morning cartoons.
Now, there's two significant people in my life who have had a huge impact on not just my voiceover work, but like everything I've done in my life in general. And you must have grown up watching them at some point because one of them was on Scooby Doo and like a ton of Hanna-Barbera shows from the 70s, back in the day, sort of like that. Frank Welker, literally,
Yeah,
he's been doing Scooby Doo since like 1969. The show,
yeah,
I know he's been Scooby Doo since 2002. I know everything, don't worry. I mean, the
sure.
show, the franchise Scooby Doo, he's been Fred Jones. So, what was it like to sort of grow up watching his characters and then eventually getting to work with him on Tiny Toon Adventures?
Well, I worked with him way before that. My very
Oh, did
first,
you? Oh,
yeah, my first professional job. And I don't remember him being at Tiny Toons, to be honest with you.
oh yeah, he was
Uh,
Go-Go and Furball and
but
Little B.
I don't think he was there at my sessions.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
But he was there at my very first session, which was a cartoon called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends back in the early 80s.
Oh my gosh. How did I forget you did that? I literally spoke to Kathy Garver the other day.
Oh, cool.
Firestar. I
Yeah,
was we were I was gonna say because I was saying to myself, there's a young voice actor who I couldn't remember if it was you or Corey Burton who was on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and it was you. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my
And
wow.
that
Okay.
also got me, that was the job that got me my SAG card. So I qualified for SAG by doing that. But Welker was in that session.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Because he was like, was he Iceman? Was that his
It was
character?
Iceman, yeah.
Yeah,
How old were you at the time?
I
I
was
don't know.
18.
You
18.
were pretty much my age then, because I'm
Yeah,
19.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I walked up to him and I'm thinking, this is Fred from Scooby Doo. How cool is this? Um, and millions of other things, Jabber Jaws. I mean, the guy, because I was a cartoon fan, I was a geek. But
Yeah.
now and so we were at the lobby. We were at Wally Burst Studio in Studio City, and I in the lobby, I walked up to him and I was like, "Mr. Welker, my name is Bob, and I'm a huge fan, and this is my very first job." And he was so delightful. and so nice. And I said, I'm very nervous. And he goes, don't be. Seriously, don't be. I said, how do you not be? He goes, it's not a live broadcast. Don't worry about it. If you need to do something again, you just do it again. And every time I did a take, he went like this, or he went like this. He was just the nicest guy. And I've always, I haven't seen him in a while. Like the last time I saw him was, I think, an Emmy party a few years ago. He was given the Governor's Award.
Wow.
With the daytime Emmys. And
that was 2016, I think, because he was given
was it that long ago?
Lifetime Achievement Award.
Something like that, maybe something. I think you're right. I think it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I will say that I was a little influential in his getting that award. Because I've been on the board of governors at the TV Academy for 10 years. Not now, but I had been. And Natus, which was responsible for the daytime Emmys and that award, they just reached out to people and said, who do you recommend? And I put him in as a recommendation. And that laundry list of credits on IMDb, I get a phone call and they're like, how can we not honor this man? And Frank is a very
I salute you, Bob. Thank you.
He's a very humble guy. And he's not one who loves the spotlight. I think Frank, as brilliant as he is, and he did a ton of on camera. I'm surprised he didn't do more. I just recently watched him on a Dean Martin roast from I think the 70s. He was gigantically talented, but you never saw him with that look at me. He wasn't that guy. So I wasn't even sure if he was going to accept this award, but he did, and I was glad he did. And it was delightful to be in the auditorium that day when he accepted it, because he was just so sweet and his speech was delightful. And so the last time I saw him was probably that day, or one of the last times I saw him. I worked with him on Garfield, over the years. So that might've been after, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But, going back to my very first job, to have him there there are very few jerks in this business. Very, 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 very few. I can count them on less than one hand, and a lot of them are dead. So, and I won't mention names because it's not important, but it's really rare that you're not going to find a gem like Frank Welker. You mentioned Corey Burton, another just awesome person.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole stuff you said about Frank it's sincere, it's true, and stuff like that. Heck, if you even look at my profile picture on Zoom, it's literally me and him.
Look at you. There you go.
That's
fairly recent.
That was last October.
There we go.
Yeah.
And by the way, to watch Frank work is a masterclass for anybody looking to get into this business. Because I swear, I was watching him, just doing a Bob Hope impression, and his nose grows. I mean, his whole body morphs into the character, into the people he's doing. He is such a genius, a vocal genius, a genius actor. Did I mention I'm a fan of Frank Welker?
I don't think you do. Could you mention it 5 more times?
I'm a fan of Frank Welker.
I'm a fan of Frank Welker. I love him, man. As we were talking about two influential men in my life, of course, the one we just spoke about before the Zoom meeting ended was Frank Welker. The second man being the legendary Bill Scott, who I believe you had a run-in with once. Well, not literally a run-in, but
not a run-in, no.
You encountered him. Tell me your Bill Scott story.
I've got several. When I was a kid, very young, about the same time I met Mel Blanc, I used to go everywhere with my tape recorder, and ASIFA, which is an animation society, was doing a festival in Woodland Hills, California, which is where I live. And it was at a mall, and they were selling animation cells. And June Foray and Dawes Butler and Bill Scott and Neil Ross was a kid. We're doing a live presentation, a live performance of a Rocky and Bullwinkle script. And that was the day that I met June, and that was the day that I met Dawes, and that was the day that I met Bill. And a few years later, my first agent, happened to be his agent. And we had an audition in our agent's booth. Agent's name was Don Pitts.
I thought it might have been Don Pitts, yeah.
Don also represented June, and Don represented Mel Blanc, and Don
I represented everyone.
I think he represented Frank early in his career as well.
Maybe.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. And I was auditioning with Bill, and it was a Mr. Peabody and Sherman audition. He was doing Mr. Peabody, and I was like, I can't do Sherman. I don't belong here. But I don't know what I don't know if it was a commercial or a toy, but I got to read with him, and he was great. And I would bump into him on occasion here and there, quite often with June. You know, June would have social gatherings, and she would put together receptions and whatnot, and through ASIFA and Women in Animation, and he would show up. Bill died very young. You know, all of a sudden he wasn't there. I don't even remember how old he was when he passed away, but he was not that old.
So he was only 65.
Yeah, there we go. And the fact that my next birthday is 60, that's kind of scary. So, but yeah, he was just a very delightful, witty. Watching them do that live presentation of a Rocky and Bullwinkle script, and they also did Fractured Fairy Tales, things like that. And they were very much of the old radio days where they would overlap the dialogue. They would react based on what they heard, where today in animation, you can't overlap anything because there's no way to edit if the actors overlap. The only director who, in my modern days of doing cartoons, who allowed us to overlap is Mark Evanier, who directed the Garfield cartoons. Yeah. Mark also wouldn't let us get the scripts beforehand because he wanted to hear what our instincts were very cold. Because his philosophy was, if you prepare too much, you might lose some spontaneity. And I kind of agree with that philosophy as an actor. But then, as you do another take, or then ideas come to you and you start to work off of each other. But it goes back to it harkens back to the days of Rocky and Bullwinkle, where they were recorded more like live radio plays. Yeah. So I didn't know Bill well. I only met him a few times, but sadly, I never got to actually physically work with him. I worked with June quite a bit, but not Bill.
I thought you got to physically work with him on that audition thing.
Say again?
I thought you got to physically work with him on that audition thing for Peabody.
Well, that was an audition. That was an audition. That wasn't a job.
Oh, I'd say it's still a job. Say that I don't.
Oh no. When I say work with, I mean a real job, getting paid.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
An audition. No, that's just a moment.
Whatever came about of that audition? Because I remember, when I did my Bill Scott documentary on him, I didn't see anything Peabody showed me that he did in sort of like the mid 80s.
I don't know. It was between 1982 and between 82 and 87, because that's when I was with Don Pitts. So I don't know. You audition for literally hundreds and hundreds of jobs. Yeah. And you book very few. That's just the life of an actor. So you don't even think about what came from what would. By the way, it could have been a pilot. It could have been testing a toy or a cereal. Who knows? Yeah. Because Jay Ward did the Captain Crunch commercials.
He did, yeah.
Along with Dawes Butler and June Foray and Bill Scott. It was basically
and Paul Frees, yeah.
So perhaps they were doing a Peabody and Sherman, something or other for that. And maybe. The thing is, I think it was Walter Tetley. Was that his name, who played Sherman?
Yeah. He passed away in 72.
Yes, exactly.
1972, yeah.
And his voice was his voice, and his voice was so unique.
Yeah. Never had puberty.
And I can't come close to it, neither could June. So it's perhaps they didn't do anything with it because they couldn't find a good Sherman.
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe this one day someone will tell the story. I don't know.
There you go.
I literally have a picture here of Don Pitt's catalogue literally on my phone. And it's like, it says 86 to 87, but like Bill is on there. And that was like after he passed away. So,
so what you're looking at is an agency house reel, and that lists the actors that they represent. An agency house reel could come out every year. Some agents did it every 3 years.
Uh-huh.
So what year did Bill die?
1985.
Okay, so it's quite possible this was in the works in 1985 and released in 86. But it
Oh,
would cost too much money to go back and remove an actor. But
yeah.
also keep in mind that if there are old recordings that somebody wants to use of an actor who's passed away, they still have
Yeah.
to go to their agent and negotiate some kind of a deal
Yeah.
that will pay their estate. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that and I think Bill was doing Bill. Gosh, Gummy Bears was around that time.
Yeah, Gummy Bears and Muzzles. Yeah, those are his two
Yeah.
pretty much just final cartoons he did.
So there were still quite a bit of cartoons and content that even though
Yeah.
he had passed, they might need
Yeah.
his agent to negotiate to use for commercials, for toys, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm literally just like looking at all these people. There's you and there's Orson Bean, Greg Berger, Mel Blanc, Barry Bostwick. Who else is there? Henry Corden. Who else is there?
I'm sure
Stan
June.
Freberg.
Oh yeah,
Where's June? June's not listed on here.
are the ladies there?
I think it's just I think this is just the I think this might be just the men.
That's why. That's why.
That's pretty yeah. That is probably why. Who else is there? Artie Johnson, Chris Latta, Joe Leahy, Alan Melvin. Who else is there? I'm just like picking out names here. Vincent Price, Pete Renaday, Clive Revel.
Five Rebel. Yeah.
Revel, there we go, there you go. I knew it was something along the lines of that. Bill Scott there, yeah. William Shatner,
Yep.
Lionel Stander, Arnold Stang, Paul Winchell,
Yep.
Adam West, Alan Young, Orson Welles. So there's a lot of good
By the
people.
way, my first audition with Don was with Orson Welles.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
In a very tiny booth, and he was not a tiny man. But all those people you're mentioning, those are the people I would see in the lobby when I would go into audition almost every day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
I remember I was auditioning with Paul Winchell early on in my career,
Yeah.
and he had written a book on ventriloquism, and he
Yeah.
happened to have it with me, and he autographed it and gave it to me. And
Oh, so sweet.
I said, Paul, and for people who don't know the name Paul Winchell, he was the voice of Tigger for Winnie the Pooh. He was Gargamel on Smurfs. He was the Dow bathroom cleaner scrubbing bubble guy.
Yeah.
But I asked Paul for career advice, and he said, without even missing a beat, he said, never worry about money. You're going to make it, you're going to lose it. You're going to make it, you're going to lose it. You're going to make it, you're going to lose it. And if you worry about making it, you're not going to enjoy making it. If you worry about losing it, you're not thinking about how can I make it again. So just enjoy the journey, be creative. Do not do this for the money.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like with Orson Welles, especially, because that's like, wow. Can you remember what that was even for?
Yeah, it was for, I don't even know what the product was, but it was a commercial. It was a radio commercial.
Uh-huh.
I was sitting in the lobby, and he comes in and sits down next to me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's Orson Welles sitting right next to me. And he looks at my script and he goes, I think we're auditioning together. Would you like to step outside and rehearse? I'm like,
Wow.
okay. So
Wow.
we ran through it a couple of times, and he looked at me and he goes, that'll do. And we went into the booth, and it was, again, such a tiny little booth, and he was not a tiny man. We were stomach to stomach, and his stomach was pressed into my stomach, and we shared a microphone because Don only had one mic. And when we were done, I had a big round circle of sweat on my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, that's Orson Welles sweat. I'll never wash this shit.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And he smelled like curdled cottage cheese and cigars, and like he hadn't bathed in a while. But it was surreal, to say the least. And I auditioned with Adam West, and I auditioned with Artie Johnson, and I auditioned with Hal Smith. Must be on that reel. Hal Smith did a ton of stuff, ton of cartoons.
I'll have a look. Hal Smith. Yeah, he was there. I skipped over him.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I skipped over him. I guess I just didn't see his name.
No. I mean, Don was a who's who of voiceover. I don't know if you're familiar with the major talent agencies in Los Angeles, but the big ones are like William Morris,
Yes.
CAA.
Yeah.
So Don Pitts was the CAA of voiceover.
Ooh,
And at
wow.
18, fresh out of high school, I
Yeah.
lucked out getting the CAA of voiceover representation, and I took it for granted because I didn't realize it was a major accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good question, actually. Sometimes when you think of these memories and the things that you've auditioned for with these specific voice actors, sometimes when you like kind of close your eyes and you just picture a scene in your head, can you just like picture what that sort of scene looked like or who was with you, or can you just literally remember things?
Totally,
How,
totally. Like
wow.
like like that audition with so the building that Don worked at when I first signed with him, it was a company called Commercials Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful Art Deco building.
Yeah.
The penthouse was Liberace's home,
Wow.
and the elevators smelled and looked like old Hollywood. And the lobby at Commercials Unlimited, I just remembered, I think, green carpet and floral wallpaper and pictures of stars everywhere that they represented. And Don's tiny little booth, giant wooden desk.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I remember. And then Don moved over to JHR, and he took me with him, another
Yeah.
agency. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember walking in one day, and there's Hal Smith with a stack of residual envelopes and a tiny
Wow.
little pocket knife, and he's just
Mm-hmm.
opening up his checks, just hundreds and hundreds of checks. And I'm thinking, I'd like to do that one day. That's kind of fascinating. Um, Man, yeah, you mentioned so many names. I remember auditioning with Adam West. And, I said, can we talk about that, man? And he's like, oh, sure. It made me rich. What do you want to know? I'm like, just, when you're doing something like that, he goes, you don't have a clue. It's a job. You're happy to have a job. And then it becomes a thing. He was just sweet and delightful. Again, Janet Waldo, another terrific, legendary actress. Lucille Bliss. Lucille lived in San Francisco, would fly in to do Smurfs. And I remember auditioning with her in Don's office, and she had a platinum blonde wig with these bangs. And every once in a
Wow.
while, the wig would be a little bit skewed, just like
Yeah.
off, like the bangs would be over here. And I always had this, I want to hold her head and say boo so she turns so her wig is straight. But I got the nerve to do that. But she was terribly skinny, not young, but wore very tight leopard, like unitards,
Yeah.
and just always looked. June too. June dressed up like she was going out for the evening, like she was going out to theater and to a fine restaurant when she was just going to her agent's office. And I remember there was a place here near us called Marmalade Cafe where we were having lunch one day, and she was dressed lovely. And I said, why do you dress up for voiceover? And she goes, oh, Bob, that's what you do. Because they came from the days of radio where there would be a live audience and you
Wow.
wanted to look nice for the audience. Well, when that carried over, radio sort of died end of the 50s, early 60s, but then ensemble cartoon recording happened with Hanna-Barbera. And all these actors who came from radio were recording ensemble together. It didn't matter. There wasn't an audience. They wanted to look nice. Mel Blanc was wearing a double-breasted suit and a tie when I crashed that session, and a little flower in his lapel. And that was just for a little voiceover session for nobody other than the people in that room.
Yeah. 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 Pretty much. What about Will Ryan?
Oh, delightful. Such a sweet guy. I missed Will.
I miss him
Met him
too.
met him very along with Katie Lee. I mean, they were like pals. They were best buddies. I met both of them very early on in my career. I would see Will at auditions and at sessions. And knowing that I was very new, he was always the first person in the room to go, Bob, hey, how are you? Let me introduce you to so and so. And that was just who he was. There was no pretense. There was no ego. Again, somebody who lost way too young. And I had not seen him in a very long time. I hadn't seen him, just in the animation circle. in a long time. I don't know how much he was doing the years before he passed away, but
He
he had a
was
love.
he was still working.
Well, he had a love for old radio. He had a love, for country music. I mean, the guy was just an amazing guy. Really, really, really good guy. And the thing is, there's just a handful of people that are no longer with us that you don't expect people are going to go, and he was one of them.
Yeah. You actually had me crying.
Guy.
You actually got me crying with that.
He was a good guy. He was a really sweet guy.
He was one of the best, because out of all the people who helped me on this Bill documentary, he was the one who I kept in touch with the most. We would constantly check in with each other and, hoped we would meet, but obviously we never will. Obviously in another life, but just I was heartbroken when we lost him, because I still choke up when I talk about him, because I consider him such a close friend. Just such an amazing, remarkable guy. And never will be another soul like him. Yeah. Oh yes, I got a question here. Which casting, well, when I say which, I don't mean specific ones, but are there any casting directors or voice directors you admire greatly, or like ones that you put there at the top?
Oh my God! So
the favoritism here. Sorry,
but I'm going to say something that's going to sound like such a cop-out answer. They're all so good. They're all so good. I mean, I've got a special place in my heart for Andrea Romano. Because Andrea, I never worked for her at Hanna-Barbera, but Andrea went from Hanna-Barbera to Warner Brothers, and she was there for all of my auditions, my first round of auditions for Porky, and she directed me on my first job, Tiny Toon Adventures.
Yeah, and then she was an assistant to Gordon Hunt at Hanna-Barbera. Yeah,
and I auditioned there quite a bit, but I never got to work at Hanna-Barbera. But she likes actors. I can remember something that just, and I was spoiled by her. Not everybody does this, but she was the kind of casting director who would come out to the lobby with the actor that just read, with her check, with her little board with the names, and okay, Bob Bergen, you're next, come on, and walk us back and forth. And I thought everybody did that until I found out everybody didn't. I mean, Colette Sunderman, I work with a million times. She's delightful. She's fantastic. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, doing Bugs Bunny Builders with her has been a joy. And I think she did Dewdrop Diaries too. Seth Green, who is the producer of Robot Chicken, but also voice directs us, is one of the best directors I've ever worked with. He is such a damn good director. Christy Reed, Ginny McSwain. I mean, Charlie Adler. I mean, see, many of these voice directors were also actors. They speak actor.
Yeah, Sue Blue is a voice actress, sort of an actress before she got into voice direction. Yeah, that is so lovely.
Of course, and a delightful person. I mean, I cannot think of. Oh, I can think of some. They're no longer with us. I won't mention names, but there were a handful of voice directors that were kind of cranky, and some in general, like one in general that I can think of, used to like to find a whipping boy and really just get off on being a jerk. And then I realized, oh my God, if you fight back, then they stop being a jerk. But even that situation, I was able to charm them and get on their good side.
Yeah, because that reminds me of a story that I remember you telling me on your social media about. You've never known the actors to this day, and in my mind, I think of a few people of who it could be, and obviously I'm not going to guess because I can't really remember the story, but it's something about you being on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and you had a hard time with one of the voice actors or something like that.
What happened was, when I was at my very first voiceover class at 14, first day.
Class, sorry.
Well, you're right. That's part of the story. There was a guest teacher there. Now I was also in a half body cast because I just had leg surgery and my voice hadn't changed. And this actor, this guy, gives me an R-rated movie trailer to read that I'm not even right for today. And he said to me after I read it, "Do you love your parents?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "Well, if you love your parents, don't go into voiceover. You have no talent whatsoever at voiceover. and you'd be nothing but a disappointment to your parents if you pursue this. Which kind of crushed me because I was a 14-year-old kid. And then I thought, well, that's one person's opinion. Let's see if other people say it. And if they do, and it works out in that way, okay, at least I tried. 4 years later, I'm on my first job, Spider-Man, where I met Frank. And I saw that actor sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make up the number of characters because I've changed the number a million times because I don't really remember. But I walked up to this guy and I said, you may not remember me, but 4 years ago, you said I'd never work in voiceover because I have no talent. I'm playing 4 characters today. How about you? So, and there you have it. I mean, that's the story. I've never let one person ruin my destiny. Yeah. There have been times where I'm like, okay, I'm spinning my wheels. This is not a genre of voiceover I should try to do. Let's move on to something else. But yeah, I won't, and I will never mention that person's name. It doesn't matter. And we're buddies now. We're really good friends.
Oh man, let's do a bit of detective. No, not happening.
Hey, anybody who's smart can do a little bit of research, but I still won't.
I was gonna say because I've kind of narrowed it down to 3 potential people, but obviously that's just gonna stay in my mind.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. And there we go.
Yeah, because I was going to say that reminds me of the story that Sue Blue said something about an actor that she voice directed was quite arrogant and was late to the session she was directing, and he was complaining why he was being directed and stuff, and she never told me who it was until obviously they passed away, and then she revealed at that UK Transformers convention who it was. I think it was Jerry Lewis on the set.
Jerry Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Jerry Lewis everybody knew was a schmuck. Everybody knew he was just difficult and hard to work with. But he was not one of us. He's a actor, director, producer.
Yeah, I said voice director and actor. That's why I didn't say voice.
But he happened to be doing a cartoon. So I'm not surprised.
I was going to say, but she then said that his role he was recast. His character was. He was recast in the role. Right. I don't know which character he was recast as, but it was for Clifford's really big movie, the Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so that was something. I think there was another story she said about her going into a Transformers animated session, all of the voice actors in there wearing masks of someone she had a fallen out. It could have been Jerry, I can't remember, but it was something about her going to that session and everyone had masks on of the person she had a bad experience with at one of the sessions.
That's hysterical. Oh my God,
I'm gonna have to text her and ask her, can you just tell me the story again? I'll have to rewatch my interview or something like that because it's definitely said somewhere in there. But there, as you said, Andrea Romano before, like we have her to thank for Kevin Conroy as Batman and like for all these absolutely amazing things. Heck, she has the same headphones as me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. And like she's just so amazing, and she's helped me so much. I mean, I've just had a demo made, and she then gave me a lot of feedback for it, like a character one. I'm having a commercial one made, and then I'm just when it's all a-okay, it's all sending off to both UK and US agents, which actually brings me to my next question. Okay. Would you say it's harder to find work in the US if you're based in the UK, despite me, able to work from home?
I'm going to say probably, but I don't know firsthand because I'm not an agent and I don't deal with UK talent sending me demos saying, will you represent me? What I will tell you is that the cream floats to the top. If you're brilliant, everybody wants to work with you. There will be a lot of reasons why it might be difficult to work in the US. First of all, if you want to do what I do, which is mainstream animation, you do have to be a member of SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
Because cartoons are the only voiceover genre that is still over 90% union. Everything else is over 80% non-union, but cartoons are still union. And the reason why they're union is because of celebrities, because they still like to use celebrities and they got to be SAG-AFTRA. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, if it's a game or a cartoon and they want authentic accents and dialects, they're going to go to somebody from the UK if they want the UK sound. Before they're going to go to someone like me who's going to try to put it on. And that is the luxury of pursuing voiceover today. With home studios, anybody from anywhere can work. You got Source Connect, IPDTL, you've got ways to get the work done.
You've got Zoom. as
You've
we're
got
using that.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then you've got you might have producers or they're like the time difference is going to be a pain because what if they're exhausted? What if it's the middle of the night when we need them? What if it's early in the morning? Are they going to? So there's too many actors here to rely on.
Yeah.
But that said, man, everybody brilliant should go for it. Don't limit yourself. I know so many people who say no themselves for fear that somebody else will. Let them say no. Don't sabotage your own career.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I remember, well, I might as well do. I remember you posting on the Bloomvox Studios group, which I'm also on, and you provide a lot of helpful information for voice actors who are aspiring voice actors on that group.
It's a great group of people. It's such
yeah.
a great. Were you witness like a week or two ago the one jerk? You know what I'm talking
I
about?
think I did see him. Yeah,
And
he
he
was something
was
about him
just
from Miami, and he made his own
I don't
demo.
know where he was from, but he was just a. It's the first and only time I've experienced that kind of jerkness
Yeah.
on that group because that is
Mhm.
I love those people. They are so supportive. They're so talented.
Yeah.
I wish they would do a little search before saying how do I even start because the information's there. But I try to be as helpful as I possibly can. But I'm always honest. Not everybody wants
Yeah.
honest. But that one guy was a son of a you know what.
Man, I saw his original post, but I didn't see any comments. Apparently, he was just a jackass to everyone who tried to
Yeah,
help him.
I think he was just contradicting and challenging everything, and he had no idea the gold mine of collective bits of advice he had. But that's okay. What's your question?
Well, I remember you posted on a thread tons of questions to do with the craft of voiceover, and you did say something about these are questions that people rarely ask me, but should. So I thought might as well ask you some of them.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, you're good.
Yes.
Let's
Oh,
do it.
thank you.
Let's do it.
So, how do you sort of approach your auditions creatively? Do you study your character before, like going in for a read? If you're given like a sort of description or a picture of the character or anything like that?
So I don't have a formula per se because every audition is different.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who've never seen a cartoon audition,
Yeah.
a really good audition will have a picture of the character, a description, and a script. Based on all that information, I come up with ideas. What I don't think of first ever is the voice, because all characters have a voice, but not all voices have character. It's personality, it's relationships. You get bits and pieces of information. I might say talking to his son, but I know nothing about the son because I wasn't given that information. 80% of animation is in the imagination. You have to make up 80% of this in your audition. You have to decide who you're talking to, what's your relationship, where are you? If you have an adjective at the top of a scene where it says angry, you have to make the choice. Why am I angry? To what extent am I angry? Maybe I'm angry at my son. Am I angry at my son because he's done this over and over and over again? And this is the 20th time I've told him not to do this. It doesn't say this in the script, but these are the choices, the layers of acting choices that I will bring to the audition. When I audition for a cartoon, more often than not, I will do 2 takes. The first take is something I'm creative. I add layers of creativity, but I'm very conscientious that this might have been in development for 2 to 5 years. And these producers are so married to what they've created. I want to honor what they've given me. So I'm going to be creative, but I'm not going to veer far away from what they're expecting. And then take 2 is totally outside the box, different, completely different, just to show I can take this character elsewhere. And my agent every once in a while will swap those before she submits them. She'll have them hear the riskier take first.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will listen to a take back. By the way, self-directing is not while you're acting. It's when you're listening back. If you're self-directing while you're acting, you're in your head and you're not in character. So sometimes I'll listen back and go, nope, I'm throwing the whole thing out. Not even going to pay attention to those specs. And I'm going to give them what I think this character should be. That's a risk I take. You've got to take risks creatively with your auditions. If you play it safe, you're going to be kind of boring. So I won't know these kinds of choices until I get involved and into the audition that I'm doing. So I don't know. That's a kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but that gives you an idea of my creative process.
Yeah, that's okay. If you don't mind me asking, which agency are you with?
Atlas Talent.
Ah, Atlas. Oh, right. Yeah, that's one of the ones on my list to submit
They're
for like
good.
US clients. Yeah, I know. I've heard really good things about them because I
I
did
was
check a
I
lot
was
of.
with them in New York. I was with them in New York first because I was with CESD in Los Angeles, and I was with them in New York years ago. And
Mhm.
then they moved out to LA, and a couple of years after they moved out here, I went with them across the board. In fact, just this past week, um, I went to their new office and I met a whole bunch of the agents who I had never met because a lot of them came on during COVID and we couldn't go anywhere. So saw the office. We sat outside, just had a lovely chat with all the commercial animation promo agents, and it was great. They're such great people. They're really, really
That's
good.
good. Yeah.
Hardworking, fun. They like what they do. They like actors. I'm very, very pleased with them.
So this is a good one.
Okay.
When whenever you get an audition from your agents or anywhere like that, do you ever pass on an audition? And if so, what reasons? Is it because usually the character doesn't fit your description or anything like that? Maybe.
I won't do any games that look throaty or they look like they won't feel good. I don't participate in games that I find uh, violent. I mean, don't get me wrong, fantasy violence, terrific. But you won't see me doing anything like, Grand Theft Auto or anything where they're killing cops or I just don't, I don't want to work on a game. I don't have children, but I don't want to work on a game that I wouldn't let my kids play. Um, that said, I do a lot of adult swim stuff that I'm happy to do because if you have proper parents, you're not letting your kid watch it. And if your kid's sneaking it, there's nothing I can do about it. I won't do political ads, even if it's for somebody that I admire, because I've admired people who have proven to be total jerks. Yeah. And I don't feel morally comfortable lending my voice to politicians. And I've got friends that have a Republican demo and a Democrat demo, and whoever hires them that year, they get the job. And that's I'm not saying everybody should do it this way. I mean, I've got friends who are vegetarians and they won't do any fast food restaurant ads or tennis shoe ads with leather shoes, things like that. And I respect that. Yeah. Those are the biggies. And every once in a while, like I'll look at, it'll be like a maybe an internal narration thing for a company. I'm looking at it and it's like a lot of words and it's not a lot of money and it's not a lot of fun. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't float my boat. I'm going to pass on this. And I've got, my agent has a great philosophy. If you're not interested, just don't send it back. Yeah. It's all good. But yeah, that's about it. And there might be more, but I won't know until I see them.
Yeah. When you go on holiday vacation, do you check out completely? You just leave all the work behind, or do you take any gear with you just in case you get any auditions when you're away, or does that work? Or if you're traveling for a convention, maybe.
It depends on where I'm going. So I usually go with a little travel gear. That doesn't mean I'm going to open it up. If I'm going on a pure vacation, I might say to my agent, I'm checking out. I don't want to do anything. And then if this really great audition comes in, I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Several years ago, I went on a 3-day weekend getaway to a really nice little beach resort in Santa Barbara. And I had my travel gear with me, and I got a text from my agent, last minute audition. It was Friday, late in the afternoon. Need it within an hour. I said, no problem. I got it. I opened up everything. I forgot the cords that plugged everything in.
Oh no. Oh my God.
So I called my agent and I said, anyway, I can have this for you first thing Monday morning because I'm home Sunday night. And she's like, no, they need it this afternoon. So I just literally took my iPad and I held it over my head and I read the script on my iPad and I recorded in the built-in microphone at the bottom. And it's a show called Ridley Jones. We did 3 years.
Ridley Jones, yeah.
And it's on Netflix right now. And I play Mr. Peabody, who
you play a Peabody.
Yes, yeah. I did. And I also play this guy, Paul, who's a little Western character. My point is, if your audition is really good, it doesn't matter how you record it. Of course, you want it the best it can be. But I sent it to myself as well because I wanted to hear it in my home studio. Because we had a room overlooking the ocean, there were people frolicking and waves and everything, and it sounded fine. So, there are times if I've done European vacations where I'm like, I don't want to work or audition for anything, and I haven't. I've gone on cruises where I've got it with me, but I'm not going to do it. It just depends. But if it's like going to a bar mitzvah in Texas or a wedding in New Jersey, I'll bring my stuff and then prop up the pillows in my hotel room and lay it down if it looks like something fun.
Yeah, definitely. And game shows you've done. It says apparently you did Wheel of Fortune in the 80s when you were a teenager.
Well, I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. And then you ended up being the host of Jep, which is the kids show of Jeopardy. And I've got to ask, right? This is a question that's been simmering in my mind for quite a while. The children who were contestants on it, did they ever know that you were Porky Pig or Tweety, or they didn't? I
doubt it.
Did they know about your past work?
I doubt it. But I'll tell you how I got that job.
Yeah.
I was promoting a movie that I can't mention.
Yeah.
But it was in the mid-90s, and chances are people will know what it is. And a hosting agent saw me on her client. Her client was the host of this game show. Saw me on this show, and she contacted me. And she said, have you ever thought of hosting? You were really entertaining. And I said, I appreciate that, but no, not interested. And I was telling the story to my then voiceover agent. My then voiceover agent said, don't be a schmuck. If they know your face, I can get you more for your voice. So I took a meeting with this hosting agent, and I said, look, I don't know if this is something I want to do, but if you guys are interested, let's give it a shot. And the first thing they sent me out on, I think at the time it was called Junior Jeopardy. Same producers as Jeopardy, but for kids. And I didn't really want it. So I went to the audition, and I like everybody on the planet, I watched Jeopardy, but I never memorized it. So I just kind of went through the motions and had some fun. And then I got a call back, and then I got another call back, and then I got a screen test. And on the screen test, we did an episode of Jeopardy on the Jeopardy stage. And the 3 contestants were kids who were the children of Sony executives.
Wow.
And I walked up to each of the kids before we taped my segment, and I said, you guys make me look good, I'll buy you each a car. And okay. And then one of the categories was famous cartoon characters. And for every clue, I did the voice. So it would the clue would be he lives in Jellystone Park and he's smarter than the average bear. Who's Yogi Bear? He likes spinach and his girlfriend's olive. It was Popeye. So when it was all over, one of the producers came up to me and said, have you ever thought about voiceover? They didn't know that I had done voiceover because they don't. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And think about it, it was before social media.
Yeah.
So, the only fan convention I can think of back then was Comic-Con, San Diego. Yeah. There wasn't this plethora of conventions across the world yet. So I will tell you what has been kind of cool. I've been through social media. Past contestants have gotten in touch with me.
Wow.
Who are, grown adults with kids of their own now.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been kind of cool. It was a fun job. I really enjoyed hosting that show.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a few clips online, and I really like it. To be fair, I don't know why we don't have our own.
No, my only complaint, if I have one, is they wanted to double dare it up. If you know what I mean by that, because there was a show on Nickelodeon called Double Dare where things fell on kids and they got spewed on. It was just high energy.
Slimed, yeah.
Yes. And we didn't have slime, we had toys that fell on them. But they wanted me to be Perky. And I was like, I didn't do that in my original screen test. I wasn't Perky. But they wanted me to be Perky, and I just thought it dumbed it down. I was like, these are kids, these are bright kids. They don't need Perky. Just happened to be Jeopardy kids.
I thought you said they wanted you to be Porky. I was like, what?
No, not Porky.
Porky all the time.
Not Porky, it's Perky. So yeah, that was just creatively. I wish it had been a little bit less kiddie and more intellectual. Yeah. But it was one of it didn't do it long. We only did one season, but it was probably one of the most fulfilling jobs I ever had as an actor.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with you there. And also a Fraggle Rock, the animated series, another good show, of course. Barbara Goodson, I believe she was on that show, and
He
Rob
was.
Hawson
He was
and Pat
where I
Pitt
met
and
Bob. It's where I met everybody.
Penny,
I met Rob. I met
Townsend
Townsend. I met
Coleman.
Barbara, Mona Marshall, Patty Paris, Pat Penny. Everybody had double. Patty Paris, Pat Penny, Bob Bergen, Mona Marshall. We all had those kind of names. Um,
Yeah,
uh, Produced and written by John Semper, Cynthia Friedlob. To
yeah.
this day,
It was
that
alliteration of this.
one of my all-time favorite things. Again, a one-season wonder. Did really well in the ratings, but from what I understand, Brandon Tartikoff and his kid didn't like it, and so they axed it. That's what I heard. But these are people that are lifelong friends.
Yeah.
The scripts were so good. It was such a fun camaraderie to work with that cast. Really, 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 really miss that group.
Yeah, definitely. And what about the Emperor's New School as well? What was it
Well,
like to work on that?
I at first I did a film I can't talk about.
Yeah.
That the Emperor's New School was a spinoff
We
from.
talked about Retracted.
There we go. But Emperor's New School was terrific, but I did everything by myself. I never worked with any other cast members.
Oh
I
man.
did I did all of Bucky's stuff all by himself or by myself. He was there too. It was a blast. I love that little character. I'm so amazed that all the things I've done in my career and the characters I've played from Looney Tunes and whatnot, that so many people are like, I love that little squirrel. He's one of my favorite characters. He's one of, I think he's up here. He's behind me. He's over there. If you can see him in
Yeah,
the
I can
background.
see him just
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That is so cool, honestly. Of course, when you worked on Retracted, there was a lot of good people on it. Did you ever meet? So you never met anyone during the recording of the show. So
No, but I will tell you that at the Annie Awards one year, I was presenting with Patrick Warburton, who played Kronk.
yeah,
And I met him backstage, and I said, we've never met because we did. I think Patrick did Emperor's New School as well. I think he did.
yeah, I might have done. Yeah.
I think he did. But I said, listen, I played Bucky, and he says to me, I thought Bucky was a sound effect. I said, I'm in the credits. Read the credits. So we went out front, and in our presentation, he was like, oh, squeak, squeak, and squeak, squeak. And I was like, he goes, the nominees for best performance. So we just had so much fun.
Legendary.
Yeah.
That's legendary. And speaking of awards, I was going to say before when we were talking about Frank Welker's Lifetime Award, there is bad footage of him doing his speech. It's recorded from backstage and it's live streamed on Facebook, but apart from that, it wasn't televised. So I've never seen it.
No, because it was the Creative Arts Emmys, and they don't for daytime. They don't televise those.
No, so there's no literally barely any footage online at all of it. So
And I'll bet Natus, because they do film it, because they had monitors in the room so we could see from. It was in a ballroom, I think.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was in Pasadena. I don't know, but I bet if you were to reach out to Natus is the organization that produced that show, and see if they've got footage of Frank Welker accepting that Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, for personal use. Yeah, I'll reach out to them.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. So how do you spell it? Is it Natas?
So if you Google Daytime Emmys Natus,
yeah,
you'll get to their website.
Gotcha. Right, Bob. I think it's time we end the interview with a big question, a really big question of mine. I always ask everyone this at the end, and it's the big question that either everyone's been waiting for or it's just something I made up on the spot that I really want to know. Okay. So my big question of the episode is, what is the best technique or thing that you ever learned from Dawes Butler's workshops?
If you physically play the character, the voice will follow. You can't stand at the mic and just do funny voices. From head to toe, you have to become the character. And he would demonstrate. And if you get his book, you can see pictures of him doing all those characters. Same with Mel Blanc. But when he did Yogi Bear, he would stick his chest out, and that's how he got the voice. And he did it like this. And when he would do Huckleberry Hound, he would do like this. He'd get real introverted, have a lot of expression. So that's what I teach my students. I call it conducting yourself. You know, if your characters, you're doing a superhero character, and you know you're a tug-of-war fight, you gotta do this stuff. And then the creative stuff is, it won't say this in the script, but you imagine that they get the better of you by pulling you this way, and it catches you off guard, and you pull them. All that physical stuff. Yeah. There's no way you can do that by just standing at the mic and doing a voice. Yeah. If you physically play the character, the voice will follow. That, and also Dawes was the only voiceover teacher I ever had, and I had lots of them who used the A word. It's acting.
Yeah, definitely.
Acting, reacting. And, you know, if you have a full script, you're reacting to your scene. Too many actors just read their lines.
Yeah.
But if you don't read the other lines in between, you're not reacting to anything. So I would say the most important one, physically play the character, the voice will follow. And I use that with everybody I coach. That's
really good advice. And I think it's really cool how like you learned from Dawes and now you're doing your own coaching and classes, and then in the future there will be, because it has happened with people have studied, like for example under Richard Horvitz or Steve Bloom. Yeah. They're now starting, the students are now starting, because they could be established voice actors, they're now starting their own classes to teach the next generation. So it's like a torch being handed down from generation to generation. I think it's quite incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Steve took my class a million years ago. That's where I met him, when he was a student of mine.
Wow. So, and now he's doing his own classes.
but he's also brilliant. You know, he's not doing classes because he's got nothing better to do. The guy's same with Richard. Mick Wingard is terrific. There's so many really good coaches out there. And you know, the business is going to continue on without us as one day. So, you know, today's generation working is tomorrow's coach.
Yeah, definitely. So, Bob, thank you so much. I mean this from the bottom of my heart for coming on my show. It's been a long time, you know, in the making and stuff. I've been persistent, but patient.
You've been possessed. And
I've been possessed. Ooh, yeah. So honestly, it's been worth the wait, because to talk to you about not just, I know we didn't focus much on Looney Tunes, but there's other interviews where you talk about Looney Tunes and stuff. This is more like your other voices, your live action career, and like Jep and stuff like that, and the craft of voiceover and other things like that. Just sort of drifted away from the sort of non-Looney Tunes stuff you're best known for talking about, right? Yeah. So
all good. All good.
Yeah. So it's really good to talk about this sort of varied stuff with you, Bob. Yeah. So thank you. That's all I can do. That's all I can put into words. Is just thank you.
You're the best. Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, definitely. Where can we find you on social media, or is there anything you would like to promote, or your classes, or everything?
Yeah. When are you posting this?
I would say Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So I'm doing a voiceover cruise.
Oh, really?
In January of next year. We've got a handful of spots left.
This will be posted well before then. Definitely sometime this month.
So there's a page on Facebook called VO Cruise. All the information is there, or people can just email me, bob@bobbergen.com. It's a 10-day round trip from San Francisco, Mexican Riviera.
Oh my God.
It's 5 days of workshops, 2 days of animation, 2 days of commercial, and then a full day talking about marketing and the business of the business.
Oh my God.
It's you could be a ranked beginner at voiceover, you could be a working actor, and we're limiting it to only 40 students. So So yeah, and it's on my Facebook page too. So just you just do a little research or pop me a note, and I can send you the information. But it's the second one we've done. I'm doing it with Mary Lynn Wisner, who is a commercial casting director, also casts games and all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Howell's coming along, so he's going to be part of the business marketing day. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it is filling up. And once the cruise itself is completely booked, we can't take anymore. But we have a few spots left. If people are interested, I would say do something now.
I want to go on it now. It sounds so exciting. But then I'm going to Los Angeles in March. So what do I do? I can only choose one. I don't know what to do. So
I know.
random. Oh my gosh. Well, if there is someone from watching this interview who ends up going on the cruise, I hope you do enjoy it. And Bob, I hope
Yeah,
you
me
do
too.
enjoy the cruise as well. Definitely. I'll
There
be
we go.
rooting you guys on from the UK. With that, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone at home for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. This has been an absolutely amazing episode with the wonderful and legendary Bob Bergen. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, filming it and talking to Bob and just having such a good time. So thank you for supporting my show and my content. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And with that, we will see you around. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. And cut. I didn't know that. I just saw that on there. I was like, that's probably false, like the Sabrina stuff.
No, no,
I was like,
I was on Hell's Kitchen. I was a celebrity eater, and our team got kicked off before we could finish our dinner. It was a lot of fun.
Who else was on your team?
Are you talking about the cooks?
No, as in like you were like you said you're a celebrity eater or something.
I don't remember who else was there. Other celebrities that were there.
Oh, right. I thought you meant like other voice actors or something.
No, Curtis Stone was he's a celebrity chef. He was also one of the celebrity eaters. But when the two teams of cooks, when our team got kicked off before we were done, it's kind of over for you. But they let you stick around, and we just bonded with other people who were sitting in the dining room and just kept eating and drinking. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
What was Gordon Ramsay like? Did he swear a lot?
to his contestants, he was Gordon Ramsay. Backstage before we went out there, he came back and introduced himself, and he was a pussycat. He was so sweet and so nice and so gracious.
Wow.
And then they start the show, and it's real. It is real. I will tell you that some of the food was. I had steak tartare for the first time in my life that day, and it was quite enjoyable. I've had it since. But yeah, that one was true.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I definitely checked that out.